Hey there, it's me, Laura Jadid. I'm doing a car video because last night I went to the Trump event in Detroit, Michigan, where Trump spoke to union members and auto workers at the Drake factory in the northern part of Detroit. And that has made me the kind of person who does a car video. I will upgrade to a truck next time so I can do a full truck video. Anyway, look, when I say that the event had factory workers and union members in it, auto workers and union members. I not everyone in the audience was either of those things, and I know that because I was one of them. I was given a Autoworkers For Trump sign and allowed into the venue. Yeah, so let's talk about it. How I got there. I showed up, which is the first step in getting into a place where you're not supposed to be, is you just show up and see what happens. Got into line. There wasn't much of a line, which was surprising to me. And I did what I do, which is I make friends. Talked to some people, talked to a really nice woman who eventually I left to go to the bathroom. And when I got back, she had secured a sign for me. They had gone through the line, noticing that it was small, I think, and said, if you aren't on the list, but you have a sign, we'll let you in. And she got me one. That was very, very nice of her. If you're watching this, I hope that you don't feel too bad about that. Please don't stop being nice. I did not tell her that I was a journalist. I told her the truth, which is that I'm not an auto worker, that I've seen Trump 4 times. I really wanted to see him a 5th time, and that I was very, very excited to see him again. It is not her. She is not the person who got me into this. I had the sign. And then when it was time to open up to people coming in at 4, they called the sign people to the front, which was a choice. And they asked us some questions. So this guy who was working security, guys, there's definitely a steroid shortage in America now, because he did all of them. All of them are inside of him. That's it, guys. We're out of steroids. So the steroid guy asked me who I'm with, and I said I was hanging out with a group that's a little bit farther up. And he said, but are you an auto worker? And I said, no. And he said, where's your group? And I said, I don't really have one. I'm just really excited and I want to see Trump. And I smiled real big, which is step 2 of getting into places you shouldn't be. Show up and then smile really big and ask for what you want. And this obviously probably works better if you're a woman, but it has worked pretty well so far for me. So I got in, and it's funny because he asked the person behind me a bunch more questions, not about me or her, but just like that woman who was talking to you in line. Like, what did she want to know about the event? Like, what was she asking? Why was she trying to get in? It's like they were looking for people like me, but they didn't find me. So I went through security. They looked through all our stuff. They had a drug sniffing dog and sniff any drugs on me, and I went in. And there I was. It's it's a factory. It's a working factory. Drake makes transmission parts, I believe, and gear shifts for the big 3, which are on strike out here. Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Stellaris, fuck. God, I'm a bad reporter. Anyway, whatever. The big 3, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. So, the factory, it's a working factory. They've got, the machines that make the parts. They were kind of, sectioned off. The walls all are stacked with parts that are ready to go out. When, gear shifts, transmission parts, engine parts. It looked pretty cool. And when Trump did eventually take the stage, what you had is Trump at his aesthetic best. He's got good instincts. So, you had the big man, the big D, talking in front of factory parts, like real good all-American industry. And then at the same time, what you had in the with the rest of the candidates, the ones who aren't going to be the nominees unless Trump drops dead of a heart attack, they were all in the Regan Presidential Library with this very polished, made-for-TV backdrop with lighting and neon, and stage makeup, and good call. Good call, Trump. From a propaganda perspective, absolutely nailed it. So I'm in here. I got my Autoworkers For Trump sign, and I am not the only non-union, non-auto worker member in there. There was free pizza, provided by the president. I got into line 4, said free pizza, and struck up a conversation with the gentleman next to me. And I said, "Are you a UAW worker?" And he said, "What's that?" So it wasn't just me. If you watched the speech, by the way, you heard Trump say that there were like 10,000 people waiting outside. That's not true. When we got out, it was raining cats and dogs, and there was 0 people waiting outside. Maybe after we went in, 10,000 people showed up, but I'm telling you, they were having trouble filling seats. I didn't see a ton of UAW people there. Less than 10 people in UAW union outfits, like shirts or, hats or anything like that. And, it was a small enough venue, 400 people. I feel pretty confident I didn't miss anybody. I was there for 4 hours before Trump started talking. We'll get to that in a minute. But either there weren't a lot of union people there, or there were union people there who were incognito. And that second, to me, feels improbable, because why wouldn't they want to bring attention to, the union is for Trump? So it seems to me that there weren't a lot of union people there. What there were a ton of Drake employees there. Now, Drake is a non-unionized shop, which is not making people on the line feel super good about Trump, although there is a lot of support for Trump on the line. I'm doing an article about that. You can read that shortly. But it'll be in a couple weeks. Anyway, but yeah, so there were a ton of people in Drake t-shirts. And I would say, I don't think quite half, but close, a lot of Drake employees. So there were auto workers for Trump there, but they were auto workers employed by the factory that invited Trump to speak. And, who the hell knows, right? But they were there. Everyone else, for the most, there were a few freaks, and by freaks I just mean, the people that you see at Trump rallies, people, with the novelty t-shirts and the flags and the pins and the, Let's Go Brandons, and a lot of mugshot t-shirts, you saw, but that was everybody. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. They're freaks. Maybe 10% of the people there were freaks. I've never been to a Trump event where there were that few, diehards. Most people were dressed pretty regularly, either in the Drake t-shirts or dress shirts, dresses, looking kind of fancy to see the president, not looking particularly callous hand. I didn't get super big blue collar vibes, but who knows, that's vibes. Let's see. So, yeah, but there were people who were wearing subtle Trump stuff. There were a lot of mugshot t-shirts with, the Trump, the mugshot, and then wanted for president, a few different varieties. A lot of people are selling versions of that shirt. So, just as an aside, I know everyone had a lot of fun with the mugshot, and yeah, it's cool. I'm glad people had a good time. It's not super important to me, but, I know people, it felt cathartic, and I'm glad, but just be aware that cut both ways. That wasn't a propaganda blow amongst his base. They think it's great. When Trump finally did take the stage, he talked about being indicted for everything. He said he'd probably be indicted for calling Joe Biden Crooked Joe or something. And again, good strategy, because it distracts from the fact that he's been indicted for some serious stuff. He's not being indicted for being an asshole to Joe Biden. He did allude to the possibility of vengeance when he's elected president, which, love that for us. But, yeah, so that was the thing. And then we all grabbed our seats and waited. I grabbed my seat with my free pizza, there were 3 kinds of pizza you could choose from. There was the majority leader, which was cheese. There was the bipartisan pizza, which was pepperoni and cheese. And then there was the Green Party vegetable, which had mushrooms and peppers. By the time I got there, all they had was the bipartisan pizza, which, considering we're about to have a shutdown, is very funny. But it was pretty good. I thought it was delicious. So I sat there, ate my delicious free pizza, and waited. The thing about Trump events is the doors always open ridiculously early, and Trump is often quite late. So if you go to a Trump event, you're going to be bored for a lot of it. So I just kind of sat there and just kind of let it all wash over me. And, people were just kind of chatting. It was, because it's a factory, the acoustics were bad. My hearing's not great. I didn't really overhear anything super interesting. Just people were as excited to see Trump. The steroid guys were running around, keeping order. The dog was hanging out, very cute, Malinois. Good dog. They're all good dogs. All dogs are good dogs, even police dogs. It's not their fault. Yeah, so waited 3.5 hours, and we listened to ABBA's Dancing Queen at least 3 times. There was a looping soundtrack, so it was, ABBA, then Michael Jackson, and, Trump music you hear at Trump rallies. So eventually he takes the stage, and Trump talks for about an hour. He makes fun of Biden for only speaking for 15 minutes with 9 picket people, which, I don't know, man. Kind of wish he'd only spoken 15 minutes, but that's not a Trump event. It is always really cool to see him live. That's just true. He is great live, and it's really hard to understand his charisma if you don't see him live. And I've written about this. I wrote about this the first time I saw him at CPAC 21. I was blown away, because a lot of the expressions that look very silly on camera, they look very humble. He's really moved to tears, that you're here for him, that you're cheering him. And I think that might be true. He needs attention and love and support. He's a bottomless black hole of need. And you can see it. And it really feels, it feels good, I think, to see that the man that you worship, really loves you back. It feels good, I think, to them. Now, I'm not talking factually. Obviously, Trump has not been good for workers. We'll get to that in a second. But, that's the vibe. So he talks about the indictment. As I said, he spends most of the time talking about the Green New Deal and outsourcing. Is that the word? God, I can't remember. I feel like that's the word, where you put jobs overseas. Anyway, sorry, I'm pretty tired. But basically his pitch, and like this, propaganda-wise is a solid, logical pitch. It's not true, but it's logical. Basically, he's like, look, unions can haggle over a raise increase or, price increase, wage increase. Jesus, I'm so sorry. A wage increase. But and that's nice. Good for them. I hope they do well. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is that in 3 or 4 years, all your jobs are going to be gone because of the Green New Deal and because you're getting outsourced to China to make electric vehicles because electric vehicles aren't profitable. And the globalists are the one pushing this. He said globalists a lot, the globalist moneyed elite versus, economic nationalism, which is what he supports. So the argument is basically that look, it was a good way to mitigate the fact that he gave a speech at a non-union plant during a strike, which is, it sends a message. He basically said, look, the union guys, they better support me or they're going to lose all their jobs. But if you support me, I'll bring you all back to the prosperity that you experienced decades ago. Good, made in America jobs. And as an aside, if anyone promises to bring things back to the way they were decades ago, just they're lying. You can't go back like that. You can go forward into a better future, but you can't go backwards. It's not how time works. I'm sorry, but it's just not how things are. We're moving into the future. The thing to do is make sure the future is good, not to try to reverse time. But, and I think that's going to be a resonant message for people because I've been spending the last couple of days in the picket line talking to workers. And I will tell you, I met a bunch of Trump supporters. I met some Biden supporters. I met a Bernie bro. Everybody I talked to, including the people who weren't political, actually, because there were some of those too, which I don't care. All of them brought up the pivot to electric vehicles. They're all really concerned about that. And I understand why, because they're looking at losing their jobs. They know that electric vehicles take fewer jobs. They know that they would need to be retrained to work on electric vehicles. Their skill, and it is skilled labor. You can call it unskilled if you want, but I've heard the descriptions of what these people do, and I couldn't do that. And chances are, if you're watching this and you have hands that look like mine, you couldn't do it either. You'd need training. It's hard. They don't know how to do the electric vehicle stuff. They're concerned they're going to lose their jobs, and that there's not enough of a plan. It's it's one thing to just be we're going to switch. And that's what, Biden's kind of done. It's a whole other thing to have a plan for people whose lives are going to be disrupted by that. And I think that's something the Democrats could be doing better. And I think it's something that Trump is exploiting. That being said, I think if you look at Trump's record, and we do have a record now, he's had 4 years he was in the White House. So we know what he thinks of labor. We know that he did things like say, the auto companies should move their factories to the South so that they can pay lower wages. And then once they've paid the lower wages and Detroit is impoverished, the Detroit workers will beg for their jobs back at cheaper wages, which is obscene. That's awful. I'm sorry, but that's the opposite of pro-union. That's pro something completely different. It's anti-worker. The tax cut that he touted last night mostly helped rich people. There was a thing where, as we were waiting to get in, somebody had hired a prop plane to fly around and around with a little banner that said, TrumpHatesWorkers.com. It was something like Trump dislikes workers, TrumpHatesWorkers.com. And I will put that link in the description because if you're interested in Trump's actual track record on worker rights, that lays it out pretty well. And, feel free to fact check it, obviously, but it all checks out as far as I can tell. So anyway, he's not actually going to help the workers, I don't think. And it's unfortunate that I think that his messaging is probably going to be somewhat effective with people. Let's see. Also, he had this thing. He's like, you're going to make your gas cars illegal. And you should have freedom of choice to choose gasoline-powered cars or electric cars. He shit-talked electric cars a bunch, like how they run for 15 minutes and there's no charge and you can't charge them anywhere. It was a whole thing where he ran down electric cars in a way that was, slightly unfair. But he had this thing where he's like, I believe in car choice and I believe in school choice. And that got a huge applause. Huge applause. He talked about, gender affirming care and how that's bad. He's like, I'm not going to outlaw gasoline engines. I'm going to outlaw transing children. And that got another huge applause. It's banning trans healthcare, anti-trans rights stuff actually isn't a winner at the ballot box. I'll drop a link in the description that kind of describes how those efforts have gone basically from the jump. Not great. But unfortunately, it really does rile up the base, and they really like that messaging. So that's a thing that happened. We didn't mention Hunter, for whatever that's worth. No mention of Hunter Biden. That surprised me. A lot of mention of Crooked Joe. Apparently the worst president we've ever had by a lot, which is, Andrew Johnson would like a word, but whatever. It's whatever. It's Trump shit. He did Trump shit. So he talked for an hour. Hold On, I'm Coming came on. YMCA followed it. We all left. It was pouring rain, and we dispersed into the night. So that was the Trump event. And again, if you look at the crowd and all the people holding up signs, keep in mind that at least two, and I suspect many, many more of the people in that audience were not auto workers. And that the reason we were in there is because they didn't have enough auto workers. So, although I think the messaging will unfortunately be effective, there's not a lot of diehards, and certainly not a lot of union diehards. So take heart in that, I suppose. That's it for me. I'm going to go to the airport. I'm going to watch the debate. Maybe I'll try to do a video about that from the airport. Maybe not. Article I got sent out here by New Lines Magazine. That article should come out in a couple weeks, maybe a month. I'm going to get to work on it right away. I got a lot to say about what people on the line think and why, about the strike, about Biden, about Trump. I think it's going to be really cool. I did a lot of interviews with a lot of really, really cool people. Like, I feel so good for having been on this picket line. Like, it really gives me hope. Like, there's a lot of, we throw around the word solidarity, but these are people who are out there making history because they want to be able to feed their family and have a good life. Not just get by, not just survive, but have a good life where they can take their family on vacations, where they can afford a nice house, where they can send their kids to college if they want to. People who work really, really hard. We're talking 10-hour days, 6 days a week, hard manual labor. And they want a living wage. And they're out there. It's not frantic. There's not a lot of anger. There's just this very solid patience. Like, if we work hard enough for long enough, we're going to get what we need. And you know what? I think they will. Here's hoping. Solidarity. I'm off to the airport. Wish me luck on Spirit Air. I'll see y'all later. Subscribe if you want to. Have a nice day.